and welcome to the Total Entertainment Podcast with me, Paul Collis. And today we're going to take a look at Professor Brian Cox with his live show, which is an interesting one because it's essentially a lecture, but it's going to be a fun lecture with lots of state-of-the-art technology within this lecture. And why am I doing this one? Well, that's because people find stuff like this entertaining, and they do, because not only is Professor Brian Cox a professor in his own right, but he's also a showman as well, and he's also a musician. At one point he was in a band, but we'll get into that when we go over his background. So today's show is a 5-truck show. 5 trucks for a lecture. Are you mad? I hear you say. No, it's true. 5 trucks for his lecture. So you have most of the setup is a ginormous LED screen. And when I say ginormous, I mean it is a massive screen. It is it's 15 meters long. 15 meters long, yeah, and it is 5 meters high. 15 meters long and 5 meters high. It's a massive screen, yeah, the biggest screen that we've had in here for a very, very long time. And it's not a standard LED screen. We're talking about a high-res LED screen. So on this podcast, you've heard about certain screens like the top level translucent LED screens. This is like one step below that. So it's a black translucent screen, so not as crystal clear as the other ones, but it's equally as high def as those ones as well. So it is pretty meaty as a screen. He's got a small rolling stage in front of this LED screen, and we're talking about 2 panels deep and 6 panels wide, and you've got treads, which are stairs going stage left, stage right, indented in the upstage proportion. What he's also done as well is the stage isn't draped off. There's nothing underneath the stage because it's a nice chrome under stage, and it's polished as well. So why have they done that? Because they're lighting it. They're underlighting the stage, which is a first for me to see in this arena. I've seen it done before, but you can hear the sound check going off at the back in the arena at the moment. But yeah, it's the first time I've seen the understage lighting in this arena. And it looks pretty good because the way how the chrome portions of the understage is all nicely polished, so it's reflecting the light very beautifully. You've also got a handful of moving lights standing on the floor, stage left and stage right, and then in a parallel L shape. And also you've got a few lights hanging in the rig, but there's not many in there. They're just there to give the stage a nice little wash over and avoid hitting the old LED screen, so it doesn't get washed out. But primarily you have 4 robo spots, just picking up Professor Brian Cox from the front, 2 from the front and 2 from the back, so he's completely lit. And I think he might actually come down onto the floor as well, but only time will tell. So we've done the lighting, we've done the screen. Sound wise, there's not much sound rig. He doesn't need it because it's a lecture. You've got a line array which is only 6 speakers deep, 2 wide, and set back a little bit and 45 degrees outwards, either on both stage left and stage right. You have a smaller line array which is only 4 deep and 1 wide, and that will give the nice surround sound effect as well. Other than that, it's all there. It's not much to report on the actual technical aspects of the show until we actually see the show. And the show is basically going to be lots of live demonstrations of his theses, and I wonder what he's going to be talking about. But we do know one thing. He's going to be talking about space, because he is a physicist that talks about space. Now, whilst we're here, let's hear some of his background. So, Brian Edward Cox, CBE FRS, was born 3rd of March in 1968 and is an English physicist and former musician who is a professor of particle physics in the School of Physics and Astronomy at the University of Manchester, and a Royal Society Professor for Public Engagement in Science. He is best known to the public as the presenter of science programs, especially the Wonders of series, and for popular science books such as Why Does E = MC Squared and The Quantum Universe. Cox has been described as the natural successor for the BBC's scientific programming by both David Attenborough and Patrick Moore. Before his academic career, Cox was a keyboard player for the British bands D-Ream and Dare. He was born in the Royal Oldham Hospital, later living nearby in Chatterton from 1971. He has a younger sister. His parents worked for Yorkshire Bank, his mother as a cashier and his father as a middle manager in the same branch. He recalls a happy childhood in Oldham that included pursuits such as dance, gymnastics and plane and bus spotting. He attended the private Holme Grammar School in Oldham from 1979 to 1986. He has stated in many interviews and an episode of Wonders of the Universe that when he was 12, the book Cosmos by Carl Sagan was a key factor in inspiring him to become a physicist. He said on the Jonathan Ross show that he performed poorly on his maths A-level exam. I got a D. I was really not very good. I found you needed to practice. In music, in the 1980s and 1990s, Cox was a keyboard player for the rock band Dare and released 2 albums with Cox Out of the Silence in 1988 and Blood from Stone in 1991. He joined D-Ream, a group that had several hits in the UK charts, including the number 1 Things Can Only Get Better. Oh, he was in that, was he? Later used as New Labour election anthem, although he did not play on the track. In 2015, he appeared as a guest keyboardist during a live performance of the song Your Silent Face by New Order. Cox wrote the foreword of the official orchestral manoeuvres in the Dark AMD biography, pretending to see the future in 2018. Having been an obsessive fan of the band in his youth, he said of their songs, "They shaped my character and inspired me to make music." Cox studied physics at the University of Manchester during his music career. He earned a bachelor's degree of science degree with first-class honours. After D-Ream disbanded in 1997, he completed his Doctor of Philosophy degree in High Particle Energy Physics at the University of Manchester. His thesis, Double Diffraction Distillation at Large Momentum Transfer, was supervised by Robin Marshall and based on research he did on the H1 experiment at the Hadron Electron Ring Angle HERA particle accelerator at the DESI laboratory in Hamburg, Germany. Cox has appeared on many science programs for BBC radio and television, including in Einstein's show, the BBC Horizon series, the $6 billion experiment, What on Earth is wrong with gravity? Do you know what time it is? And can we make a star on Earth? And as a voiceover for the BBC's bite-sized revision programs. He presented the 5-part BBC Two television series Wonders of the Solar System in early 2010, and the follow-up 4-part series Wonders of the Universe, which began on the 6th of March 2011. Wonders of Life, which he described as a physicist's take on life natural history, was broadcast in 2013. He co-presented Space Hoppers and has also featured in Danny's House on CBBC. Cox also presented a 3-part BBC series called Science Britannica, which sees him explore the contribution of British scientists over the last 350 years, as well as the relationship between British science and public perception thereof. So here is Brian Cox's filmography. So between 2005 and 2009 he worked on Horizon as a guest presenter. In 2008 he was on The Big Bang Machine. 2010 he worked on Wonders of the Solar System, Danny's House, Would I Lie to You, as a panellist. Between 2011 and 2012 he worked as a panellist on QI, and 2011 to 2017 and 2019 he was on Stargazing Live as a co-presenter. In 2011 he worked on Wonders of the Universe, The Night with the Stars, The One Show, The Sky at Night, The Graham Norton Show, The Horizon Guide, Moon. In 2012 he was on the Jonathan Ross Show and Doctor Who as himself as a cameo. 2013 was Wonders of Life, Science Britannica, Conan, The Science of Doctor Who, and In Search of Science. 2014 on CBeebies Bedtime Stories, Monty Python Live, Human Universe, Space, Time and Videotape. 2015 on Absolutely Anything. 2016 Forces of Nature, The Entire Universe. And 2017 he was on Life of a Universe, John Bishop in Conversation With, an episode of Postman Pat, and The 21st Century Race for Space. In 2019 he was on The Planets, and 2021 Brian Cox's Adventures in Space and Time and Universe, and in 2022 he was on Mandy and Brian Cox 7 Days on a Mars. His discography for his musical career: for the band Dare, Out of the Silence in 1988, and Blood from Stone in 1991, and for D-Ream it was D-Ream on Volume 1 in 1993 and D-Ream in Memory of in 2011. So that's a nice little bit of info on Professor Brian Cox, and I'm sure that when we get to see him live on stage he will not let us down, because he is very prolific with his articulation, and he has some great science, and he has some great experiments and examples of how to explain the theories that he talks about. We'll be back after this. So not only does Monster X Media have a series of podcasts, but we also have a series of books. The first book is actually 2 books, it's Volume 1 and Volume 2, of A Tribute to Working at Sea. The best fiction is based on truth. This is a compilation of short stories, rants and poems loosely based on the author's experience at working on a cruise ship. Some of these stories are based on actual events but highly exaggerated, whilst other stories are pure fiction. The title of the book, A Tribute To, is fitting with the tone of the book because, like a tribute act, it is a blatant altered reality where you can enjoy it knowing it's not quite the truth. There are things with alcoholism which used to be highly prevalent within workers in the cruise industry, as well as stories with a sexual nature. So sit down, relax and enjoy the ride of A Tribute to Working at Sea Volumes 1 and 2. All of these books are available on Amazon and are available in paperback and on Kindle, and the links for all of these books are in the description below. And we're back. So the main thing is for me to not ruin this for anyone, and when I say that I mean by spoiling the show. So just gonna give you some of my notes because it was a good show. I mean, I've always been interested in stuff like this, and even if you're not a science fanatic, it was visually stunning, and the graphical representations of the theories, they were outstanding. They were absolutely outstanding. So let's have a look then. So Brian Cox, his show had a 2-minute overture of a classical song, and I can't remember what it's called. And unfortunately, in this day and age, I would be frowned upon if I got my phone out and started to Google the music in the auditorium and have everyone look at me like, what's this bellend doing? Which I don't want to do. So I'll just describe what happened. So within this 2-minute overture, we had a colour changing sequence from the lights, which were under the stage and around the stage, and then a few of the splashes that were looking down onto the stage from the grid. And then once the sequence had finished, faded into a blackout on the count of 0, because there's 2 counts. And then the second count was when the video screen came to life, and it started off with a star collapsing into a supernova and a massive explosion, which we're assuming is the Big Bang or something thereof. And then it turned into, then the screen went from the supernova into nebulas, and then it went from nebulas into star formations, followed by a planet flyby looking at the Milky Way galaxy, then onto a small planet going past a star, so like Mercury. Because you didn't see the whole star, you just saw a section of this star, this fiery ball of gas, and this little sorry speck of rock that was just floating past it. Such a stunning resolution, I have to say. Anyways, I'll get onto that in a moment. And then the screen morphed into a flyby of our moon, revealing Earth, like in 2001 Space Odyssey. So the camera starts off on the moon, and then as the moon rotates and the camera tracks in, you see Earth coming up from the horizon. It looked amazing, really looked amazing. And then the screen morphed into a water scene where you had all these hydro vents just warming up bits of the ocean and whatnot. And then that morphed into tree life. The tree life morphed into cities. The cities morphed into an orbital shot of the Earth, followed by space stations and spaceships, and these space-faring civilizations with massive megastructures in space. So that's obviously the start, the present, and the future. What else did we see? And that was just the intro. What else did we see? So we saw a detailed view of the Milky Way galaxy from a photo stitch. So the northern hemisphere, he was saying in the picture, were outer left and outer right, and the southern hemisphere was the centre of the screen. And that's because the South Pole will always face towards the galactic centre, and the North Pole always points away, and that's how they stitched the map together. He pointed out the position of the Andromeda galaxy from that shot as well, and some satellite galaxies to the Milky Way. And what are satellite galaxies? They are kind of part of the Milky Way, but not, so they're just out of reach, they're just there, close by. And when I say close by, it's on a galactic sense, because it's not close by in real terms. When you think about that distance from that satellite galaxy to Earth, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of light years away. So for us that's a long way, but in galactic terms it's not. We saw a close by galaxy that was 30 million light years away, and it was 50,000 light years across. And then the photo shows that galaxy colliding with another galaxy. It's in mid collision as we speak right now, and that light would have taken that light that we're seeing right now was like over 30 million years ago. With it, but if you want to simplify things, which I'm going to simplify it because not even I understand all this stuff, but 30 million years ago is when it started to collide, and we're just seeing it now. So I wonder what it's like in real time now. Probably merged completely. Anyways, and all of this was shown in the first 10 minutes of the show, or lecture, however you want to put it. So what else did we learn within this show? We learned a lot about black holes, and we saw the computer model of what a black hole looks like, And if you've seen the film Interstellar, it is exactly the same model of what they used in Interstellar for that movie, but a different render of the same data. But that's as close as you can get to it. And since the James Webb Telescope launched this year, it showed a photograph. They actually got a photograph of an actual black hole, where you've got all this ring of light and nothing in the middle. That is the black hole, because it's sucking the light into it. And also we learned that there's currently 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe, and counting. They're still finding more, because the James Webb Telescope is able to look that far out and into the past. And there's so much more in there, so much more. I wish I could tell you the rest of it, but it will ruin the show. It will completely ruin the show, and I'm sure there'll be a DVD of this, or even a broadcast of it on the BBC at some point. That being said, let's go back into the production aspects of this show. Let's start off with the LED screen. It is a high definition, high res screen, and some of the shots that they had on there, because of the size of these pictures, they had to scroll it, even on the resolution of this screen, which is 16 meters long and 6 meters high. Yeah, it still wasn't big enough to do a whole photo of what he showed. What he had to do was scroll onto that screen, and it was the picture was that big in respect to the resolution of this screen. It was four screens worth of photo, which is massive. It is absolutely massive. And that was the shot with the 2 trillion galaxies and counting. The colours on this screen were amazing. I've not seen anything this detailed on a screen like this. I've just not seen it, and now the technology's there, you can tell that it is nice and crisp, and you wouldn't be able to pull it off, not at that resolution, to have it that colour vibrant and clear, lots of clarity within it. Lighting wise, you had all the lights that were there to complement what was going on the screen. They never interfered with the screen. When something big was going on in a massive VT sequence, Professor Brian Cox would be faded out on his follow spots, so you saw all of what was going on the screen, and the lights would be peppering the audience or pointing away from the screen, so it didn't interfere with what was going on. And it was a visual masterpiece, especially with the lights underneath the stage lighting up the chrome legs of the stage. And this has to have been a brand new stage that they had specifically bought for the show, rather, and then it'll go back into higher stock afterwards, but it was brand new, and the legs were perfect there, and they were polishing these legs before the start of the show, so the lights would refract from that even more. So it was all done very scientifically, and it looked marvellous, absolutely marvellous. Sound quality was perfect. I mean, at the end of the day, it was Professor Brian Cox and his guest talking, so you didn't need a massive sound system. All you needed was a bit of bass, which they got on the floor, which was masking some of the lights on the floor, and you got the flown line arrays. That's all you needed, and it was very clear. There's so much clarity, especially when they're playing the music from the video sequences. It was a good experience, and even if you're not really into the astronomy and physics like this, from a point of view from a show point of view, it was definitely an audio-visual extravaganza, and I highly recommend going to see something like this in the future. Or if you're able to get onto this tour, do it, because it is definitely well worth the money, as being a visual and audible experience. If you liked today's podcast, please hit like, subscribe and share. And if you haven't already done so, why not check out more content from Master X Media by clicking the link in the description below, and that will take you to all our podcast channels, to all our YouTube channels, to our books and to our social media. So until next time guys, bye for now.